The discussion around MMR is constant, almost nagging, like my mom asking when I'm gonna get married. So I think it's time we round up all that talk, analyze it, and make some suggestions for Crytek to take action on. Some of my suggestions and analysis you might not agree with, and that's okay. I want this video to match the intent of a successful MMR system: fairness. As such, I'm inviting you again to give me your feedback about MMR in the comments down below, because I know my opinion is not the only one that matters on this topic. This video may be longer, so I'll try to divide it into sections, and you can use timestamps to hop around. Alright, let's crack this bad boy open. I made a video recently about a drop in player numbers, which is to be expected after an event and with new games coming out. But there was a lot of feedback in the comments of that video that specifically call out the MMR situation. If you go on Twitter, the official Discord, or the subreddit, MMR talk is everywhere, constantly. The players, at least the vocal ones, are just obsessed with it. So before we tackle all of that, first let's talk about how it works. Humor me so we can all be on the same page. The MMR is divided into 6 groups assigned a star rating. New players are put in 1 star, everyone else is somewhere between 2 and 6. Most players are 4 stars or near it, high 3s, low 5s. MMR is affected by killing or being killed by enemy players. If you kill someone, you go up. If you get killed, you go down. How much you go up or down depends on the enemy's MMR compared to your own. As a 5-star player, killing a 1-star player won't do much for you. However, getting killed by a 1-star would certainly drop your MMR score a bit. When you form a team, several factors affect your team's MMR, but generally your team MMR is an average of the members of your team. When you queue into a match, the server tries to find other teams with a similar team MMR that are also queuing in that exact moment, and that's important. The pool of players in the matchmaking queue will inherently affect the quality of that matchup. In low population servers like OCE or on console off of primetime, you might see some weird pairings. As we heard in the roadmap video earlier this year,
we're going to work on matchmaking improvements, and so that's where we're going to try emphasizing the full lobbies a little bit and lately releasing some of the skill clamping. So there might be a broader range of MMR stars that would show up in any given lobby to emphasize full lobbies over having that be a narrow band. And we're going to evaluate the relationship between quick play and bounty hunt for adjustments. It's another popular topic that comes up in the community about how people are gaming one system to try and get an advantage in the other. And it's not as big a problem statistically or data-wise, but I think it's one in sentiment that bears looking into. So we want to understand just what is going on with the people who are engaging in both quick play and bounty hunt and what that effect looks like on the fun being had or the engagement of all the players.
Okay, so that's the system. Now let's talk about some of the complaints. The biggest complaints about the MMR are that 1, it's too volatile, meaning you can jump between a 3-star to a 5-star in a single match. Basically, the MMR rating changes too much, too rapidly, behaving more erratically than a player's true skill level actually would. Number 2, matchmaking often feels unequal when lower MMR players are matched against higher MMR players, with the lower teams resulting in the scientific term being steamrolled. And 3, related to volatility, solo players receive a slightly reduced team MMR when queuing against trios, because 1v3 is supposed to be harder for the solo. However, sometimes that can mean a 6-star player is fighting a whole server of 3-star players, as seen in this recent Reddit post. There are many examples of similar matchups around the community. Also, recent updates to the traits Necromancer, Resilience, Magpie, and Serpent have put solos on more equal footing against teams, but they still receive a reduced MMR in queue. There's other issues, but I'd say those are the big 3. However, parallel to this, there's a 4th issue, which is a little different. In Soul Survivor, which used to be called Quick Play, there is no MMR consideration in matchmaking, so you can be matched against any star rating. But kills and deaths still affect it for some reason. So some players can abuse the system, go die a bunch in Soul Survivor, and have a lower MMR in Bounty Hunt. How common is that? I have no idea. Who even plays Soul Survivor? But it is easily exploitable, and therefore the sentiment around it feels a little silly. Okay, now let's talk about the problems with all of this stuff. The results of these issues is that a subsection of the player base feels a high level of distrust and annoyance with the MMR system. I have seen every variation of this. People assuming the stars are lying or being abused, people upset a 6-star can even be in the same match as a 3-star, people accusing new accounts of smurfing, people accusing solos attempting a risky revive of deranking, Mosin snipers being wannabe 6-stars, on and on and on. I agree with some of the frustrations, but just for the sake of fairness, I do think some of the people are shifting the blame for their loss. If you look at the star rating as a probability of success rather than a designation of skill, it makes a little more sense. A 5-star is more likely to kill a 2-star player. Some of the problems occur when the matchmaking system either doesn't have enough players to fill a lobby in that exact moment, resulting in some lopsided pairings, or when a team has players of varying skill levels, where the team MMR can't account for the individual performance of a high-skill player who has 2 low-skill teammates. I think many people's issue is that too frequently it feels like the server prioritizes a full lobby quickly rather than a fair lobby slowly, as we saw in the clip earlier. Not all the time, not every match, but often enough to notice. Another issue with the MMR is that Hunt Showdown is not intended to be a competitive FPS game, as in every team in a match won't start on equal footing or even semi-equal footing, as is the case in something like chess. The loadouts can be vastly different, and while super high skill players can wipe a server with a teacup, the MMR is intended to work for everyone. Despite this, we have this MMR system that you can always see similar to a ranked mode in other games, but it's not meant to be a ranked mode. I think many people don't want to care about MMR, but it's unavoidable and hiding it feels like a cop-out. So let's talk about some possible solutions. None of this is easy, and all of these will probably have some knock-on effects, but let's start with the clear ones. Number 1, remove MMR from Soul Survivor. It doesn't matter if it's just barely being abused, the cons far outweigh the benefits of keeping it. I assume there are complicated coding or backend reasons MMR is still enabled for kills and deaths there, but I really can't imagine why from a gameplay perspective. Maybe if Crytek could explain why it's still enabled there, people wouldn't be as upset. Number 2, remove or reduce the MMR debuff for playing solo. If you're playing solo, you want the challenge of it, and I'm saying that as a solo player. Sometimes I want to put a goofy loadout through its paces. I'm not expecting to win, but I don't want to be able to fall to clubbing seals either. The trait buffs have done a lot to help, and although solo necro is useless most of the time, contrary to what a lot of people say, it does provide a second chance in some cases. Also, reduce how much your MMR drops for using Necro Revive as a solo. Sometimes you want to go for the super risky res with hunters all around you, which is fine, but you shouldn't lose a star as a result of using a trait as intended. I'm fine with a slightly tuned matching for solo players, but it does feel too easy to drop those MMR scores, unintentionally or not, thanks to Necro Revive. Number 3, reduce the volatility of the star ratings. This isn't as easy as it sounds. One method could increase the values of all the ranges for the stars, meaning you would spend more time in each range, possibly reducing how frequently you go up or down a star. But that might make it easier for people to derank and stay there longer, assuming the data shows that's actually a real issue and causing more problems. Also, for the people that go up and down more frequently, they could remain locked in the same cycle of going up and down a star rating if they are on the edge of 2. Similarly, I've seen people suggest adding more stars, so like an 8-star rating, but then it starts to feel a little arbitrary. I mean, it already feels a little arbitrary. Why not 10 stars at that point? Hell, why not 20? If the MMR rating gets too granular, you might loop back to where it's weird server matchups of a 13-star team being matched with a 15-star team. Like, what is that? So another possibility I've heard is having a floating average. So a player has their ELO score going up or down with every match, but that value is weighed or modified by their average MMR across 30 or 60 days, which sounds a lot like a ranked season. The goal being, make the MMR rating change less, but then again, is this star rating meant to be a ranked mode? And would a floating average make it more difficult for an improving player to find more difficult lobbies? In short, reduce the volatility, but the exact method for that might vary. Number 4, Crytek could also revert whatever change they made before that let the servers match a little more loosely, but that also requires some definitive answers to some hard questions. Should a team of 3-star players ever match against a solo 6-star player? Is a full lobby with a good underdog story better than a semi-full lobby with even star ratings? If we have stricter matchmaking, will we have more empty lobbies? I don't know the answers there, but people calling for change should consider those things too. And number 5, my most controversial opinion on this topic, a hot take if you will, is to just remove the star rating from public view. And if you disagree, that's okay, tell me why down below. The star ratings are a good tool for transparency, but Crytek has to decide why it wants that transparency. Are star ratings meant to be ranks that are meant to be pursued and chased? If they aren't ranks, why do we see them at all? I understand you need an MMR score for matchmaking, that's fine with me. I do think as a whole it creates more even lobbies. But other games use skill-based matchmaking in general play and use ranks in a separate ranked mode. Maybe Hunt could use a hidden MMR for bounty hunt and add a star rank in a separate mode whenever the player count justifies having a separate mode. In my opinion, by hiding the stars, at least from the menus, people can focus on having fun, choosing new loadouts, playing the game as they want to. You can actually take the time to think about a death rather than just saying, well, he was 2 stars higher, so I was gonna die anyway. Sure, people might focus on KDA more, but the same star-obsessed people already do that. I don't want the game to be more casual, I don't want there to be less player transparency, but I feel like all this focus on stars is just eating people up, making strawmen out of valid fights, and giving a sense of inferiority to one side of the community and a superiority to the other. Hunt Showdown didn't always have star ratings, and we talk all the time about things that Crytek should add to the game, but very rarely do we talk about the things they should remove. In my opinion, this might be one of them. Okay, long video, a lot of talking. Hopefully Crytek can make some changes to make the MMR feel more fair and rewarding. Like I said up front, I don't know the exact solution they should take, but the status quo doesn't feel like a winning strategy at the moment. Let me know how you feel about the MMR ranks, subscribe for future videos, and until the next one, goodbye.